When was the last time you bought something online? It can be clothing, travel tickets, hotel bookings, or even that limited edition figurine you can't find at your local store. It's been estimated that over 40% of global internet users have made online purchases at some point in their lives. Doesn't sound impressive? The e-commerce market is still in its infancy stage. However, total online retail sales is projected to reach $1.9 trillion in 2016, up 23.7% from 2015. The global e-commerce market is experiencing explosive growth, and experts predict that by 2020, e-commerce retail will account for close to 15% of all global retail sales.
Our topic will look at whether the fundamental sales process has changed when selling e-commerce platforms. This topic is critical to sales strategy due to the new opportunities and unique challenges e-commerce poses. This emerging field will likely attract many future sales professionals, and learning the already established industry best practices can provide a leg up in a sales role. This presentation will start by sharing learnings gained from in-depth research into the sales processes associated with e-commerce. Additionally, we will discuss insights gained from industry professionals from Shopify, Johnson & Johnson, and Nestle Canada. We will then share 3 key learnings about the sales process and how it has shifted for e-commerce, focusing on discovery and the sales funnel. Now, the current Canadian landscape is comprised of 2 major players, Amazon at 36% of e-commerce sales and Walmart at 45%, with many other players involved in some capacity. In our research, we learned that B2C companies mainly see e-commerce as a future business opportunity rather than a current revenue source. To date, retailers like Loblaws have not been motivated to invest in establishing the infrastructure associated with picking, packing, and shipping CPG products to the end consumer. It's a dynamic process which is visually depicted here. Alternatively, companies like Johnson & Johnson and Nestle have viewed e-commerce as a marketing tool. In looking for academic research to supplement our interviews with professionals, we discovered that much of the thought leadership in this space is focused on solution selling, but there's a lack of research on selling e-commerce platforms due to the relative infancy in the field. That being said, there have already been 5 key best practices established for driving value for e-commerce sales: personalized shopping, clear categorization, order tracking, in-depth product information, and customer engagement. Ensuring execution across all 5 of these will allow sales professionals to best position a product for businesses to address their customers' e-commerce needs.
Take a look at this graph measuring search volume over time on Google. The trend suggests that Shopify is a leader in the e-commerce software market, in the same way that we commonly refer Kleenex as facial tissues and Band-Aid as bandages. Shopify is becoming synonymous with e-commerce. In our exclusive interview with Matt Pasiga, who has over 10 years of solution selling experience and is a sales team lead at Shopify, he has shared some of his best practices in managing his reps. Traditionally, larger, more mature tech firms will limit entry-level reps in the lead generation stage of the sales funnel. Matt explains that Shopify's organization structure is different. Shopify's sales reps work through the full sales cycle. This means that whoever opened a deal is also responsible for closing that deal. This strong sense of ownership, combined with lucrative sales bonus opportunities, are the driving forces of motivating his team. Next, we will be looking at 3 key takeaways when selling e-commerce solutions.
First key takeaway is that the traditional sales framework for B2B solution selling doesn't actually change much when selling e-commerce platforms like Shopify, primarily because e-commerce also targets the core of the client's business. When selling Shopify, it is important to understand that it isn't simply a service used once a month, but rather, for most clients, it is their primary sales channel. As such, the product must work well and be credible, and as a salesperson, you must gain trust. Shopify tells us that to do so, you must be seen as a leader and an educator. Essentially, when selling services, you're selling yourself. You're the expert, and selling Shopify is no different. How well can you assess their business, figure out their problems, and paint a picture of how their business would be different with Shopify? A pro tip is that when identifying problems, people often get too personal too quickly. Switching from rapport to business problems is a sharp turn, and often people will get defensive. So taking the time to properly build up to that point, as well as framing your questions in a non-accusatory way, will help you more easily discover the core business problem. Second key takeaway is the importance of discovery when selling e-commerce, wherein identifying what the companies will actually use it for is crucial when the service is so multifaceted. With e-commerce, the solution changes depending on who the target is. SMEs and most of Shopify's clients seek the traditional benefit, the unique opportunity to sell directly to consumers, usually eliminating the need for a retailer. When a firm's key pain point is not knowing how to get into the e-commerce space or not being able to do so due to difficult or expensive logistics, Shopify allows for an efficient turnkey solution to this. CPGs and manufacturers, on the other hand, see e-commerce as a media platform, as opposed to an ultimate solution to shift their sales efforts away from brick and mortar. This is because for CPG companies, digital choices are too broad. They don't have the capability to pick, pack, and ship, as they're set up to deliver large volumes to retailers. Thus, they leverage e-commerce to support promotional campaigns to drive awareness. And Shopify's efficient setup and easy implementation is perfect for accomplishing this. Thus, as a critically important portion of the sales cycle, the discovery phase only gains significance when selling an e-commerce platform like Shopify. The reason being, the positioning of the service within the client's overall business strategy varies across prospects. As such, a thorough discovery process that identifies the correct pain points is critical to positioning Shopify in the best way possible to make the sale.
The selling of e-commerce platforms like Shopify requires a highly selective lead generation process. This is due to the breadth of technological adoption by companies in consumer-related industries. Some companies are ready for this adoption, while some are far behind. It is essential that companies like Shopify understand their place in the market when selling to ensure that the leads they reach out to have the highest chance for conversion into prospects. So how to be more selective in lead generation? The first is to focus efforts on companies that are able and willing to rapidly adopt new technology for their business. The second is to focus efforts on companies that understand technology solutions are at the heart of their business success. The third is to understand your business model. Less complex companies may be more profitable and easier to move from leads to prospects. So what to stay away from in lead generation? The first is complex B2B sales. Like the manufacturing industry, their structures are very complex with respect to purchasing, discounting, payment, and reordering. They have existing relationships and are set in their ways, so it's harder for them to look for new opportunities. The second is to stay away from traditional retailers, as there are complexities and difficulties with legal teams of these retailers. Most big companies have never done business with a SaaS company before, so they try to put Shopify in the same legal category as an Oracle, and are not willing to negotiate Shopify's contract terms. Still in its infancy phase, the global e-commerce market is experiencing explosive growth. B2C companies must assess whether or not e-commerce is a business fit for them and be constantly reevaluating. On the B2B sales side, the three key learnings showcase what the sellers of e-commerce platforms could do to further take advantage of this ever-growing industry. Thank you.
Now on to FAQs. Question 1. Is the e-commerce a current focus for large CPG companies? Currently, no, and there are 3 reasons for this. Number 1, none of these manufacturing companies have the capability to do so because they are not set up to pick, pack, and ship. They're set up to deliver large volumes to retailers. There's never been a reason prior to the emergence of e-commerce to pick individual things designed for individual consumers. Number 2, logistics is hard and expensive. Companies are not scaled enough to justify the overhead. And number 3, their own websites' end goals are to inform the customers about product information. Thus, they're not optimized for a customized, shoppable experience. Question 2. Is Challenger a poor model to teach salespeople? According to a Harvard Business Review article, sales reps who fall under the Challenger profile, that is, those who are assertive to share potentially controversial views using their understanding of clients, are most likely to be the top performers in an organization. However, Matt from Shopify disagrees. It's a poor model to put in front of new sales reps, he said. Challengers talk too much and they don't listen enough, and jamming value down customers' throats to get the next call is super ineffective. Instead, he proposes that encouraging salespeople creativity has led to more success. This is interesting as salesperson creativity is one of the 5 most under-researched areas in sales management research. Question 3. How does an e-commerce solution firm categorizes its sales efforts? In the case of Shopify, it's fundamentally the same as other B2B solution selling efforts. There's outbound and inbound. For outbound, there are the hunters who are responsible for cold calling businesses and find prospects using tools such as LinkedIn Sales Navigator. On the other hand, inbound generates leads through their digital marketing efforts. Lead sources that get fed into a CRM hit a rotator to evenly distribute amongst inbound sales team. The goal here is to have the quickest response time to merchants. The following is an endorsement by Matt Pasiga, the sales team lead at Shopify Plus.